Introverts aren't afraid of people, they're afraid of repeating the same emotional wounds they've carried for years. They fear the moment their honesty gets brushed off as overthinking, their silence gets labeled as disinterest, their depth gets dismissed as too much. They fear giving someone a piece of their heart only to watch it mishandled again. Their quietness isn't shyness, it's self-protection. After being misunderstood enough times, they learn that opening up isn't the hard part. Trusting someone to truly see them is. It's not the crowd that scares them, it's the feeling of being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. It's the memory of explaining themselves only to be met with confusion, judgment, or impatience. Introverts crave connection, but not the shallow kind. They want to be understood, not decoded. They want someone who listens, not to reply, but to feel. So they choose their people carefully. They speak selectively, they reveal themselves slowly, because once they've been misunderstood deeply, they carry that memory like a quiet bruise, a reminder to protect the parts of themselves that the world often mishandles. Before you go, let me ask you something honest. Have you ever stayed silent, not because you're afraid of speaking, but because you're afraid of being misunderstood again? If you watch until the end, comment, "I feel seen," so I know you're one of the quiet souls who understands this truth deeply. And make sure to subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind, where your silence, your depth, and your story finally make sense. Introverts don't fear social interaction. What they fear is what happens beneath the surface of it. The subtle misunderstandings, the unspoken expectations, the emotional misreads that leave them feeling more alone in a crowd than they ever do in their solitude. People think introverts avoid interaction because they're timid or shy, but the truth is far deeper. They can speak, socialize, connect, laugh, and engage just fine. What drains them is not the presence of people, but the pressure to perform, to mask, to be understood in a world that often hears their silence louder than their words. Interaction isn't the problem, it's the emotional cost of being around people who don't see who they truly are. Inside an introvert's mind, social interactions are layered experiences. While others focus on the conversation, introverts notice tone, energy, sincerity, intention. They absorb everything, the subtle shifts, the inconsistencies, the emotional temperature of the room. This sensitivity makes connection meaningful, but it also makes disappointment sharp. They fear the moment someone mistakes their quiet for disinterest, their thoughtfulness for awkwardness, their depth for darkness. They fear showing the softer parts of themselves only to watch the other person misinterpret it, minimize it, or move too fast for their comfort. It's not the talking that scares them, it's the vulnerability required to be themselves while talking. And so they choose their interactions wisely. They walk into social spaces with a quiet awareness, hoping to feel understood, but prepared to protect themselves if they're not. They can blend in, adapt, and navigate conversations with grace, but they guard their truth until they sense safety. When they find someone who listens properly, who pauses instead of rushing, who feels instead of assuming, their whole energy opens. The difference is dramatic. The same quiet person who barely speaks in a room filled with shallow noise transforms into someone deep, expressive, and emotionally vibrant when they feel genuinely seen. That's the irony. Introverts are not afraid of interaction. They're afraid of interaction without understanding. Their silence is not avoidance, it is discernment, a filter, a shield that protects them from the emotional bruises of being misunderstood. They don't fear people, they fear the familiar ache of trying to connect and feeling more invisible afterward. But when they find the rare soul who understands without needing explanations, the walls fall, the voice rises, and the depth they carry becomes the most beautiful part of the interaction. They've learned that being misunderstood hurts more than being alone. For introverts, loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of understanding. They can sit in a quiet room, wrapped in their own thoughts, and feel perfectly whole. But the moment they open their heart to the wrong person, the moment they try to explain something meaningful only to watch it get twisted, minimized, or dismissed, a different kind of loneliness appears. The kind that stings far deeper than silence ever could. Over time, they learn that misunderstanding leaves scars that solitude never does. Being alone is peaceful. Being misunderstood is painful. And after enough of those painful moments, they begin to guard their inner world like something sacred. Introverts feel in layers, communicate with intention, and reveal themselves slowly. So when someone misreads their emotions or reacts carelessly to their vulnerability, it cuts deeper than others realize. They remember the times they opened up only to have their feelings labeled as too sensitive, too deep, or too dramatic. They remember trying to explain their silence, their intuition, their boundaries, and watching confusion fill the other person's eyes. These moments stay with them. They echo, and every misunderstanding becomes a quiet reminder that not everyone is meant to hear their truth. So they choose silence over exposure, solitude over confusion, and inner peace over the exhausting task of explaining themselves to people who listen with their ego instead of their heart. This isn't bitterness, it's evolution. Introverts understand themselves deeply, but they've learned the hard way that not everyone around them tries to understand with the same effort. So they protect their energy. They stop forcing conversations where they feel unseen. They stop sharing pieces of themselves with people who have proven they can't handle the weight of their words. They withdraw not out of fear, but out of wisdom, the kind of wisdom earned through quiet heartbreaks and invisible disappointments. They learn that it is better to sit alone with their truth than to sit beside someone who misinterprets it. And yet, beneath that caution remains a soft hope. The hope that one day they'll meet someone who listens with presence, who sees with clarity, who understands without needing translation, because when they finally feel understood, introverts come alive in ways the world rarely witnesses. Until then, they choose the gentle refuge of solitude over the sharpness of being misunderstood. And that choice becomes one of their greatest forms of emotional self-protection. They open up slowly because their depth has been dismissed, minimized, or twisted before. Introverts don't reveal themselves in one moment. They unfold in layers, carefully, quietly, intentionally. Not because they are hiding, but because life has taught them that their depth is not something everyone knows how to hold. They've been in situations where they finally opened up only to watch their sincerity get brushed aside, their emotions labeled dramatic, their intuition mocked, or their vulnerability used against them later. But these experiences don't just sting, they shape the way an introvert moves through the world. So they learn to open up slowly, offering small pieces first, testing the emotional temperature, watching how someone handles the softer parts of them before revealing the deeper truths that live beneath the surface. Inside their mind, every step toward openness is a risk. They think before they speak, reflect before they reveal, observe before they trust. They've learned that not everyone listens to understand. Some listen to judge, to gossip, to twist the story into something that fits their own comfort. They've learned that people who ask for honesty rarely prepare themselves for the depth that honesty requires. And nothing has hurt them more than watching their deepest thoughts they spent months gathering the courage to say, be met with confusion, dismissal, or a careless shrug. That pain stays, it lingers in the back of their mind every time they consider trusting someone new. And so they open like a door with many locks, each one requiring patience, sincerity, and emotional safety. But when an introvert does open up, it is one of the rarest gifts they offer. Their depth is not loud, but it is profound. Their vulnerability is not dramatic, but it is real. They will share their fears, their dreams, their quiet wisdom, their inner storms, but only with someone who has shown they can hold those truths gently. They move slowly because they know how precious their inner world is. They reveal themselves gradually because trust for them is something built in silence, in small moments, through consistent emotional presence. They protect their depth because it has been mishandled before, and the scars of that mishandling still whisper reminders. And yet, their slow unfolding is not a wall, it is a filter, a way to separate those who want access from those who deserve it. Because once an introvert feels safe, once someone proves they can handle the weight of their truth, the depth that emerges is breathtaking. They become expressive, thoughtful, loyal, emotionally rich. They reveal worlds inside them that most people never get the privilege to see, but that access must be earned. Not because they are guarded, but because they finally learn their depth is valuable, and not everyone has the capacity to receive it. They choose quality over quantity because only a few people can truly understand them. Introverts don't crave crowds or constant companionship. They crave connection that feels real, safe, and emotionally aligned with the depth they carry inside. They've learned through experience that not everyone has the patience to listen beyond the surface. Not everyone has the presence to sit with silence without feeling uncomfortable. And not everyone has the emotional intelligence to understand what is spoken without words. So instead of surrounding themselves with many people, they carefully choose a few who make their soul feel seen. They aren't impressed by popularity or noise. They're impressed by sincerity, consistency, and emotional depth. They choose quality over quantity because only a rare kind of person can meet them where they truly live, in the quiet, meaningful spaces of the heart and mind. Throughout their life, they've met many people who liked the idea of them, but not the reality. People who enjoyed their calmness, but never noticed their complexity. People who took their listening ear, but never offered one in return. People who appreciated their presence, but overlooked their inner world entirely. These experiences teach introverts a powerful lesson. Connection without depth is emptier than being alone. So they pull back from superficial relationships, from noisy environments that drown out their intuition, from people who want access to them but not responsibility for how they make them feel. They know their emotional energy is limited, precious, and not something to scatter across people who treat connection like convenience. This is why their circle is small, not because they can't socialize, but because they refuse to settle. They seek conversations that feel alive, not draining. They want relationships where silence is comfortable, not awkward. They value people who care enough to ask deeper questions, who listen with their heart, who notice the subtle shifts in their mood without needing explanations. With the right people, introverts become open, expressive, warm, even surprisingly humorous. But with the wrong people, they become quiet, distant, guarded, not out of rudeness, but out of emotional preservation. They choose quality because their depth cannot survive in shallow places. And when they finally find those few rare souls who truly get them, who understand their silences, respect their boundaries, honor their emotional world, those connections become unbreakable. They invest fully, love sincerely, and remain loyal with a devotion most people never experience. Their small circle is not a limitation. It is a sanctuary. It is where they can be their truest self without fear of being misunderstood. And for an introvert, that kind of understanding is worth more than 1,000 acquaintances who never really knew them at all. Their quietness is a shield, protecting them from repeating old emotional wounds. Introverts aren't quiet because they have nothing to say. They're quiet because life has already shown them what happens when they give too much of themselves to the wrong people. Their silence is learned, earned, built from moments when they opened up and were met with indifference, when they trusted and were misunderstood, when they revealed their heart only to watch someone handle it carelessly. Each disappointment leaves a mark, and those marks eventually form a shield, not to block out connection, but to filter it. Their quietness becomes a soft barrier between them and the emotional harm they've experienced before. It is how they protect the parts of themselves they once offered too freely. Inside that shield, introverts are not shutting the world out. They are keeping themselves safe while they decide who is worth letting in. Their silence gives them space to think, to observe, to understand the energy in the room before they engage. They've learned that not everyone deserves immediate access to their emotions, and many people only listen enough to reply, not to understand. So they speak less, but feel more. They watch closely who respects their boundaries, who rushes them, who listens with sincerity, who responds with ego. Their quietness is their radar, their filter, their protector. It ensures they don't repeat old mistakes by giving their heart to people who haven't earned its weight. And while the world may misinterpret their silence as disinterest or distance, the truth is far more meaningful. Introverts know how deeply they feel, how intensely they care, how vulnerable they become when they open up. That's why their quietness is not emptiness, it's discernment. They would rather say nothing than say something to someone who will twist it. They would rather pause than rush into a connection that feels uncertain. They would rather protect their peace than gamble it on someone who reminds them of past wounds. Their silence is not a wall. It's a boundary shaped by the lessons they never want to learn again. Yet, this shield disappears the moment they sense genuine safety. With the right people, they unfold. They speak freely, they express openly. The quietness melts because it no longer needs to protect them, but until that rare moment arrives, their silence remains their sanctuary, a gentle but powerful reminder that they've grown, healed, and learned to guard the beautiful depth inside them. In the end, introverts aren't guarded because they're cold. They're guarded because they've been honest in the wrong places, deep with the wrong people, and open in moments that deserved protection. Their quietness becomes the armor that allows them to move through the world without losing themselves again. And with every lesson, every boundary, every moment of clarity, they become stronger, clearer, and more intentional about who gets to enter their inner world. That isn't fear, that's wisdom. Before you go, let me ask you something real. Have you ever stayed quiet? Not because you were shy, but because you finally learned what your heart needed protection from. If you watched until the end, comment, "I protect my peace," so I know you're one of the deep minds who understands this journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind, where your silence is respected, your depth is understood, and your inner world is finally seen.